not retribution. It's always better to operate within the law, not be swayed by a mob reaction. But surely everyone can understand the anger the Jordanian people have toward the ISIS killers and other terrorists. Japanese people have the same anger. So do most Americans and others around the world. But again, there is no strategy in place to stop the ISIS madness. Here's President Obama's comment yesterday.
It's just one more indication of the viciousness and barbarity of this organization. And it, I think, will redouble the vigilance and determination on the part of a global coalition to make sure that they are degraded and ultimately defeated.
Right now, the global coalition the president referred to is a myth. Doesn't exist. And ISIS is doing pretty much what it wants to do. Last year, the CIA estimated that perhaps as many as 32,000 fighters had joined ISIS. Jordan has an active army of 88,000, and almost twice that number in total personnel and reserves. ISIS burned the pilot to death at their headquarters in Raqqa, Syria. There it is, okay? That's pretty near Jordan, 330 miles away. So why isn't the, quote, global coalition attacking Raqqa? Surely the Jordanian army could attack it. So could the Turks. USA could also launch operations against Raqqa, but there's no will to do it. And so the world will continue to watch barbaric atrocities unfold on a regular basis. ISIS is still holding an American and other innocent people. The American people deserve to know the truth about President Obama's campaign to defeat the jihad. And the truth is, there is no campaign. What we have are selected targets that we hit with drones and bombers. In Iraq, the bombing has been somewhat effective in stopping the ISIS advance, but not in driving them out of that country. Almost every military person knows that only ground forces will get ISIS out of their entrenched positions. Again, we're talking under 40,000 of these savages, and you're telling me the world can't wipe them out when they're sitting over there in the Syrian desert and in ramshackle towns in Iraq? You're telling me the world can't defeat these people? It's total bull. America and the rest of the world lack the will to defeat evil. Period. Finally, Barack Obama must totally focus on the growing terror problem and on a threat from Iran. We have reached, I should say, a crisis level. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight reaction. Joining us from Washington, Tom Rogan, a foreign affairs columnist. Here in New York, Tom Joslin, senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Okay. Do you have a strategy when you're in your foundation for defense of democracies? Do you guys sit around and go, this is what we should do? Do you?
I think the U.S. military has a strategy. We already beat these guys once, and everybody conveniently forgets that, which is when they were al-Qaeda in Iraq, the mother organization of ISIS. A counterinsurgency strategy was put in place in Iraq, led by American forces, that systematically rolled back their hold on territory. And there were a number of specific things that were done by the U.S. military. This isn't just broad, speaking here about what to do.
This is the Petraeus strategy of getting the chieftains in the Sunni areas, buying them, whatever.
Correct.
To turn on the ISIS people or the al-Qaeda in Mesopotamia, and we won. But now they're in Syria. That's a different story, Mr. Rogan. So it's beyond the reach, and we have some advisors in Iraq, but not nearly enough. It's beyond our reach in Syria. So what would you do?
Well, I would disagree with you on that, Bill. I think it isn't beyond our reach, because if you look at Green Berets specifically, U.S., about the only country in the world that has special forces specifically orientated for what's called foreign internal defense. And the tribes in eastern Syria, in Deir ez-Zor, are very similar to the tribes in Anbar in the sense that they have been abused both by al-Qaeda in Iraq and ISIS. And so there is a natural affinity to join with a force that would win them basic freedom, would protect their women, would protect their governance structures. So I think if you could deploy those special forces, again, that takes risk. Easy for me to say, but I think we should do it.
What exactly is the risk, though? I mean, you have Turkey, which is a massive army. They don't help very much because they have their own internal crazy ISIS people there, and they play a game in Turkey, and they don't like the Kurds, and they don't like this, and they don't like that. But if we were to deploy American troops on Syrian soil, we would be exposed. I mean, we don't have a base of operations there. We don't have what we had in Iraq. We built up an infrastructure in Iraq. They'd just be out in the desert with all the other crazy people, would they not?
Well, that's true. There would be a risk, but I think you could calibrate the deployment in the sense of a management of risk, in terms of providing air cover, in terms of presenting
You could do
deterrent
all
posture
that,
against
but wouldn't
these.
it be easier if the Jordanian army entered
It would,
into Syria?
right.
They're 300 miles away, plenty of them there.
Right. Well,
Go ahead.
One of the things is that the Jordanian intelligence service, the GID, is an exceptionally talented organization. I actually suspect, Bill, you're probably going to see some pretty overt raids by the Jordanians now because of the level
I mean,
of
you can't
populist
count on the
rage.
Turks, but I think the Jordanians, I hope they do something. Now, I don't know whether you guys know this or not, but on Friday, Susan Rice, national security person for President Obama, is now going to give a strategic talk to the Brookings Institution. I'm going to take credit for this because I've been saying for months that there is no strategy, but now a strategy is apparently going to appear on Friday. Do you have any confidence, Mr. Jocelyn, that this strategy is going to make any sense at all?
No, and the reason is because it has to start with defeating the jihadis militarily somewhere at some point. And really, right now, the Obama administration is committed to not really engaging them.
All right, so do you know why they don't have the will to do this? Is it an ideological thing?
I think it's partly ideological. I think it's partly an overreaction to the post-9/11 world. They believe that basically America itself overreacted in Afghanistan and
But that's
Iraq.
all in the past. Now we're seeing these terrible atrocities.
I agree with you.
And this crew, there's only 40,000 of them. That's all there are. I mean, that's what I said in the talking points, Mr. Rogan. There's only 40,000 of them. And you're telling me you can't wipe these people off the face of the earth? That's insane.
No, it is insane. It's also strategically insane because the problem is with Raqqa, a holy city, it has lineage. All of what ISIS does is not just about the physical acts of terror. It's about how it translates to other Salafi jihadists around the world. And you see this now in Libya, Pakistan, Afghanistan. You see it in terms of the inspiration of groups like Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, all competing, all trying to take on that mantle of we are the ordained servants of God. And unless you take them out very quickly in Syria, ISIS specifically, the Islamic State, what you do is you allow that ideology and that belief in the destructibility of America and Western democracy
Absolutely, we
to
look
prevail.
weak. And the only thing we can do right now, and I'm going to give you the last word, Ms. Jocelyn, is crush as many of them as we can. You can't negotiate with them. I think you can negotiate with Iran to some extent, but you can't negotiate with ISIS.
Well, I think you have to look at this as two sides of the same jihadi coin, both Iran and ISIS. They're fueling each other, basically.
We do. Although they oppose each other, the danger from them is the same danger, fanatical Islam.
True, and I'm a little more optimistic about our ability to get a foothold in Syria, particularly in eastern Syria. As Tom mentioned, the Shittite tribe in particular has tens of thousands of members who are opposed to ISIS. We could support the tribes on both sides of the border and go after them.
But we have to be there.
That's right.
And President Obama certainly does not want to do that.